Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. Also, full disclaimer, if you can hear it in my voice, I'm a little sick. I'm a little under the weather, so if my voice sounds a little weird, please forgive me this episode. I got a cold, so it is what it is. And that's crazy, man. It's hot outside, and I got a cold. You hate to see it. But here's where we'll start. So week one of the NFL season is finally over. And I'm not going to say finally over, but, you know, we've come to a full week of actual NFL football. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down every game. Now, some games, of course, are going to get, broken down longer than others. I don't have to do the Thursday night football game, which was the Cowboys and the Bucks, because we already talked about that last episode. But I'm going to break down what we saw week one of the NFL season. Every game, every matchup comes with different storylines, and we'll talk about it. Let's start with the Jaguars and the Houston Texans. Now, this game on paper does not it's not important at all. I mean, you got the Houston Texans, which is they're not going to make any noise in the retrospect of things making the playoffs. The Jaguars, even though you have Trevor Lawrence, they're not good. So they're probably one. In fact, Sunday showed me, I think the Jaguars have the worst roster in all of NFL. First and foremost, shouts out to Tyrod Taylor, man. Tyrod Taylor's been through a lot, man. He's had people replace him, even though he's been told he was a starter. We know what happened with the medical staff and the Chargers. I'm just happy to see Tyrod Taylor ball out and Tyrod Taylor get another shot of being a starting quarterback. Especially what happened at the Chargers. People don't usually come back from that. So the fact that he was able to do what he had to do and he was able to recover himself or get back to 100%, and now he's a starting quarterback and winning games. Hey, shouts out to him, man. But I don't know. This game, so again, the Texans beat the Jaguars 37-21. And this game showed me a lot. It showed me, one, Tyrod Taylor is Tyrod Taylor is. I'm not going to say he's a world beater. I'm not going to say that he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. That's not the case. But Tyrod Taylor is still a serviceable quarterback. You can put Tyrod Taylor in the class of, Teddy Bridgewater, or when he was healthy and when he was playing Alex Smith. They're going to do just enough. They're not going to kill you with their arm strength. They're not going to kill you with their mobility. Tyrod Taylor's a good quarterback. He's just, he's not going to push the needle or push the envelope, but he's gonna be good. He's going to be serviceable, like Teddy Bridgewater, like Alex Smith used to be. And even with Trevor Lawrence, man, this game really questioned how bad it. Now, every time we talk about the hierarchy, I guess you can say, of the NFL, we usually consider the Houston Texans probably the worst team in the league. Of course, you can throw in the Jets. You can throw in sometimes the Jaguars, or a lot of times the Jaguars get thrown in. But most people think that the Houston Texans are usually the worst team in the NFL. And again, a lot of this is going to be overreaction too. I mean, it's week one. Everyone's want to throw away a lot of teams, want to crown this team in Super Bowl contention. We'll talk about it. So a lot of these takes are also overreactions, because all we have is week one of the NFL season. But I'm questioning, man, how bad really is the Jaguars, man? Like, I know, okay, so I knew they took a bit. First of all, I knew their roster wasn't the greatest. We all know the roster wasn't the greatest. We saw last year that the roster wasn't the greatest. And I knew losing Travis Etienne was going to be big, because he was supposed to be their starting running back. But I thought that their defense was going to be a little better. Oh man, it's bad. It's bad. And this is, the stat came out, this was Trevor Lawrence's first regular season loss, and since, like, God knows, like, ever. He's never lost a regular season. Now, people say, but wait, what about Clemson? First of all, he didn't start. It was DJ Ukulele or something like that. He was their quarter, and Trevor Lawrence was out, and every time he lost in Clemson was in the playoffs. But oh man, it did not look good. It didn't look good. It's going to be a long season for the Jaguars, man. Yes, Trevor Lawrence is going to, and we'll talk about the Jets in a second, but this was the concern. This is the most backwards thing about sports in general. You can be a world beater. You can be the greatest college athlete ever, greatest college football player ever, greatest college basketball player ever. You're almost guaranteed to go to a bad team. Like there's some exceptions, of course, with Miami and getting all the draft picks and the trades and stuff. Tua going to a pretty good Dolphins team. You're pretty much guaranteed to go to a bad team, and don't take away. Trevor Lawrence is still a really good quarterback. Do not get it confused. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be a great quarterback in the league, right? I think Zach Wilson is going to be a great quarterback in the league. It's just, I don't think their greatness, no matter how good they are. Hell, you even saw it. Let me say this. I don't think their greatness will be able to take the Jets or take the Jaguars out of obscurity, or rising from the top. Let's look at a great case study in this. Let's look at Andrew Luck. The years after Peyton Manning left the Colts was there were some ugly years, man. And Peyton Manning came in. No, not Peyton Manning, I'm sorry. Andrew Luck came in, and Andrew Luck was touted as one of the best quarterbacks ever coming out of college. And he was that. He was great in college. He was great in the NFL, and I think he got them to an AFC championship, I believe, or at least close to an AFC championship. The problem is, though, no matter how great Andrew Luck was, the problems that the Colts have continued to boggle them down. They weren't really good with wide receiver after Peyton Manning left. Their offensive line was god awful, and their defense was good, but their defense was spotty. And Andrew Luck was taking such a beating, getting sack after sack after sack after sack. He retired. Now, I don't think, and I'm not wishing that upon Trevor Lawrence. I'm not wishing that upon any of the young quarterbacks. I just think watching that game, watching the game on Sunday and seeing just how bad the Jaguars look. And I also understand it's a new coaching staff with Urban Myers and everything. But watching how bad they looked, it's tough, man. Now, there's only, I don't know, of course you can think about, there's really only a high draft pick. There's really only a couple players that got drafted high and went to a very favorable organization, like Trey Lance going to the 49ers. The reason why he went there is because the 49ers made a trade, and the 49ers had like 30-something injuries last year, so of course they were bad. Justin Herbert going to the Chargers. That's, boom. But I wish nothing but the best. I wish nothing but the best for Trevor Lawrence. But the Jaguars are bad, man. And don't get it confused. I understand they won, but the Texans are bad too. And the Texans look leaps and bounds better than the Jaguars. So there's that. Let's go over to the Chargers in Washington. Chargers beat the Washington 20-16. Let me talk about the Chargers before I kind of unload on Washington. The Chargers look like it. Justin Herbert, there's a reason why he won offensive rookie of the year last year. I think he had the most touchdowns by a rookie ever. I think he had like 30 something. And Justin Herbert won that game. It wasn't the defense. It wasn't, a running back play. It was Justin Herbert did everything he had to do to beat Washington. Washington, there was multiple times when Washington should have. I mean, Washington took the lead. There was multiple times when Washington should have closed the door on the Chargers, but because the better quarterback pretty much controlled the game, which was Justin Herbert, even in his second year. They were good. And the Chargers, this is why I said the Chargers could be a dark horse team to make some noise in the playoffs, because when you have Justin Herbert rolling like that, when you have Mike Williams finally looking good, I mean, he did drop some passes, but Mike Williams, the Mike Williams that we thought we were getting from Clemson, when he looks good, Keenan Allen looking like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler looking like Austin Eckler, and a well-coached team. And that's no offense to Anthony Lynn, but, Anthony Lynn had a problem with winning close games or winning late. And the Chargers, at least week one, it looks like they rectified that. So the Chargers looked good, man. The Chargers looked good. And the Chargers, like I said, if the Chargers play like they played on Sunday, they're probably not going to, it was Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert definitely got them to where they were supposed to go. So I think they do need to improve on the defense a little bit. And of course, it's week one, so you're going to get a lot of drops, this, that, and third. But I thought they were good. But let me go to Washington. And this was the problem that I had, right? This was the concern. This was the red flag that I had. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, starting quarterback for the Washington football team, gets hurt. Something with his collarbone or something with his something with his hip. He's out. He's on IR now. But that's not the thing. The thing is, this was the fear. It really wasn't a fear. This was the understanding that we have as fans and that we would hope the organization have. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a highly, highly touted backup quarterback. Now, I'm not blaming the injury on him being a starting quarterback, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has never been able to be reliable. Whether it's his limitations as a quarterback, whether it's injury, he's never been reliable. The reason why Ryan Fitzpatrick has some really, really high highs, right? Has some really incredible highlights is because they're few and far between. And they're not, you realize Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't have a whole season full of highlights. He may have, a couple games here. We remember last year, how he looked incredible until he got benched by Tua. And then had to come out, and then of course he has sprinkles of greatness. And that was the question that I had. I was like, why would you put Washington is a playoff team, right? Washington has a great running core in Antonio Gibson. They have a really good wide receiver core with Terry McLaurin. Their defensive front is one of the best defensive fronts, if not the best defensive. Well, after what I saw from the Steelers, one of the best defensive fronts in all of football. This is a playoff team, and it's not just to get to the playoffs and maybe lose the first game. This team is a great team. And you know what it is? And if shouts out to Colin Cowherd, he says something that is completely true. You can have a Super Bowl caliber team. Your team can be you can have the 2,000 Ravens. Like, your team can be great at every position. You can have the best wide receiver core. You can have the best running core. You can have the best O-line. You can have the best defensive line. You can have the best defensive the back in your defense. You can have the best coach team. Football is the difference between football and basketball, right? Basketball can be dictated by a player. Hell, we see how great LeBron James has been. Now, you can't really win a championship with one player, but LeBron James himself can give you 50 wins himself. LeBron James, hell, look at those teams look at the team that LeBron James took, that the Cleveland team that he took to the championship with like Big Z, Mo Williams. Like, look at that team. Drew Gooden was on that team. NFL, you can have greatness all around you. It does not matter if you don't have the quarterback. And then it brings me back to Washington. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's the vaccine thing. I understand Ron Rivera is, has health complications with the cancer thing. And he was one of the most adamant people over the offseason telling the teams, and especially Washington players, to get vaccinated. His health is compromised. We understand that. I get that. So maybe that's the biggest thing. But you see, and I understand the love for Tyler Heinicke. I get that. I understand the fanfare for Tyler Heinicke. I understand what he did in the playoffs against the Bucks. I get it. But your starting quarterback goes out, which a lot of people even question should be a starting quarterback for the entire season. But Ryan Fitzpatrick goes out. And and everyone starts going. Everyone starts it starts to go. Cam Newton. And the thing is this. It's not just the fact that people like Cam Newton and people want Cam Newton to be a starting quarterback. No. Or people think that he's still talented enough to be a starting quarterback. Is Cam Newton talented enough to win a Super Bowl? I don't think so. Not at this point of his career. I think he had his shot, in 2015. Just didn't work. But I think again, this is a good team. Washington is a good team. So you're hearing a lot of people, hey, bring in a starting level quarterback. Bring in Cam Newton. And then you go higher, or you say you're not in the running to bringing in a new quarterback. Yet the next minute you bring like an old quarterback from I forgot his name, from the Bengals. Maybe it's the vaccine thing. I don't know. And you can say, right? You can say, well, Cam Newton played with Ron Rivera back in Carolina. Maybe Ron Rivera is just tired of Cam Newton. Look here, bro. If I have a quarterback on the market that you can get pennies on the dollar, like if I have a quarterback on the market that will incredibly help my team, I don't care if he's the most annoying person in the world. If you're going to help my football team win games, come on, bro. It does. Well, needless to say, Cam Newton is not with the Washington football team. Cam Newton still doesn't have a job. And now Washington will be playing Thursday Night Football. We'll talk about that we'll talk about that a little later, but, Washington, it was Washington. I don't understand. To me, it's like malpractice. You know what I mean? I understand that's like kind of going above and beyond, but it's like malpractice. You have a better option and you go with the less better option every single time. It doesn't make sense. But shouts out to the Chargers for beating Washington 20-16. Seahawks beat the Colts 28-16. It's Russell Wilson, bro. Look, here's the thing. And it goes back to what I just said. The quarterback is the most important position on the field because they're the one that's making all the decisions pretty much. They're the ones that pretty much score. And Russell Wilson was incredible. I mean, I think he had like 4 touchdowns. Russell Wilson probably is the greatest dime throw as far as, the quarterback that can throw the ball high and it lands perfectly in the pocket that needs it. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback that does it better than Russell Wilson. Now, I know it's week 1, but I didn't say it on mic, of course, but off mic, people ask me, "Hey Jay, what is your I guess sleeper pick? What is your dark horse pick that nobody would expect?" I always say if Seattle does what they're supposed to do, and if Russell Wilson plays like the Russell Wilson that we know he could be, Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl. Again, that is my dark horse pick. I don't know if that's going to happen. I doubt that's going to happen. But the Seattle that we saw on Sunday was, Chris Carson looked good. DK Metcalf looked good. The defense didn't just, the defense didn't ruin it. The offensive line still, it looked better. Don't get me wrong. The offensive line looked a lot better. It's just still, it didn't look terrible like it was. You know what I'm saying? But I actually, I think that this game was more about the Colts than Seattle. And that's I'm not taking anything away from Seattle. How do you feel? Again, overreaction after week 1 because it's only week 1. But how do you think the Colts feel right now? You pretty much put your franchise you put your franchise in the hands of Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz looked bad. Like, Carson Wentz did not look good at all. And it's like, and this is the fear. I told y'all this. This is the fear that the Indianapolis Colts have. You put so much into Carson Wentz. So much into Carson Wentz. And you're hoping, you're pairing him back with Frank Wright. And that was where he had his most success. You were hoping that this Carson Wentz is this Carson Wentz is the Carson Wentz that was the MVP front runner before the injury. Now we know after the injuries and his headspace, that's what you were hoping, that you're getting the Carson Wentz of old. Now, again, this could be an overreaction because it's just week 1. However, Carson Wentz the Carson Wentz that we saw majority of the year last year in Philly is the Carson Wentz that we got week 1. His confidence looks shot. He was throwing the ball late. He was throwing the ball in windows that he shouldn't even attempt to throw it. The defense, which is a really good defense, was on the field a lot longer than it should be and the last thing you want to do is be tired and gassed to be on the field and give Russell Wilson opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. I cannot imagine being in the front office of the Indianapolis Colts and watching Carson Wentz play the way he played in week 1 and have confidence that he's going to improve, because this is the Carson. I understand it's overreaction, day after week 1, but this is the Carson Wentz that we've seen, right? This is the Carson Wentz that we have been accustomed to since after the injury. So I think it's not really an anomaly at this point, because we've seen this. And this is the biggest fear that they have. You give so much. And the Colts are in a position where the team as a whole is really good. You're good enough to be a perennial playoff team. You're good enough to actually go deep in the playoffs. Hell, you were good enough to go deep in the playoffs or have a shot to go deep in the playoffs with Phillip Rivers, who couldn't throw longer than 10 yards last year. And y'all were this close to beating the Buffalo Bills. And you would think that the Carson Wentz of old, which he was, is better than Phillip Rivers. And you would think, okay, so we improved at quarterback. Now it's time to make a move. Now it's time. Now we're legit. And Sunday did not look like it. So, I couldn't imagine. Bro. I couldn't imagine. But shouts out to Seattle. I think what we saw, again, this team is going to go as far as that offensive line and the defense takes them. I say that time and time again, but we know how great Russell Wilson is. We know how good the wide receiver core is. We know, when healthy, how good Chris Carson, that running game is. It's just, and we already know how good we know how good Pete Carroll is as a coach. It's just, is Russell Wilson going to have to run for his life as much as he was last year, or get sacked as much as he was last year? And is their defensive line, are the holes so big that it could derail the, you know what I'm saying? So That's that's that. You have the Jets being the Carolina losing to the Carolina Panthers 14-19. To me, this game. Now I understand it's the Jets, but this game proved to me everything that I was questioning. And as far as it was Sam Darnold really that good, or was it just the organization around him just that bad when he was with the Jets? Now, again, I understand it's the Jets, and the Jets secondary is horrible. Like the Jets team, especially defense, is god awful. The Jets as a whole suck. Like the whole team sucks. Zach Wilson looked good. Zach Wilson looked good at times, but the whole team sucked. Or the whole team sucks. But Sam Darnold looked confident. He looked confident throwing the ball to Robbie Anderson. He looked confident throwing the ball to DJ Moore. He looked confident pitching the ball and throwing the ball to Christian McCaffrey. He looked confident, and that confidence exuded the entire day. On the other hand, Zach Wilson, again, I understand he's a rookie, but he was running for his life the entire game. It felt good watching Sam Darnold not have to run for his life a whole game. And then it also felt bad watching Zach Wilson have to do it. So, I think we have to. It's one sample size, and it's the Jets, and the Jets defense is horrible. But Sam Darnold looked really good, and Sam Darnold looked like the Sam Darnold that the Jets were expecting to have. So. But again, I don't know how you expect to have him it goes back to the Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Andrew Luck. Sometimes your greatness is not able to blanket the garbage that's around you. So, but that's that. The Vikings lost to the Bengals 27-24. Their defense again. Week 1 overreaction. I'm gonna say that a lot, overreaction. But their defense still is horrible, still is bad, and the Bengals won. So shouts out to the Bengals. They did what they had to do. But the problems that I feared was prevalent the entire game 1, and that is. I understand that you got Jamar Chase, and shouts out to Jamar Chase. He struggled mightily in all-season camp. He struggled mightily in the preseason catching the ball. Shout out to him. I know he had a touchdown, I think it was like a 50-yard touchdown, and he looked really good. Shouts out to Jamar Chase. We come and bag on him for not being able to catch. Now that he exhibit that he can do that, hey, shouts out to Jamar Chase. Shouts out to Joe Burrow. Shouts out to Joe Burrow. Looking really good. I understand that. And I know he came out and said that he still needed to – it was tough for him to trust his injury or trust his leg again after the gruesome injury that it had last year. So he looked really good. But the problem that plagued the Bengals last year is the same problem that plagued them on Sunday. Now, it didn't bite them because the Vikings defense sucks so bad, and Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. But the reason why I wanted the Bengals, or I think the Bengals should have drafted Penei Sewell, was because their offensive line was horrible. Their offensive line was the main reason why he as in Joe Burrow got hurt last year. So I said, you have an NFL ready lineman in Penei Sewell. Hell, you see how good Rashawn Slater for the Chargers looked? He made Chase Young was irrelevant on Sunday. This is Chase Young, who I have as a dark horse winning Defensive Player of the Year, who I will go as far as saying, and I went as far as saying, is the best player in the NFC East. Rashawn Slater, a rookie, made Chase Young look like an average dude. Now, I understand it's game 1, and it could have been more of Chase than Rashawn. I don't know. But Rashawn Slater did what he was supposed to do. Penei Sewell, and we'll talk about the Lions in a second, Penei Sewell looked good. But then you go to the Bengals, man. The Bengals Joe Burrow was running for his life the entire game. Joe Burrow is just that. He's a really good mobile quarterback. I mean, he's not freaking Mike Vick, but he's good mobile quarterback. He's good on throwing the ball on the move. You have a really good wide receiver core in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Joe Mixon was incredible. Joe Mixon was running all up and down the field. It just, yes, they won. They beat the Vikings. Yes. And they also, Jamar Chase showed signs of stardom, superstardom. It's just the problems that plagued them last year is the problems that plagued them in week 1, and that is Joe Burrow is running for his life the entire game. So, I don't know, man. That's that. I think one of the biggest surprises on Sunday was the Cardinals beating the Titans 38-13. Now, the surprise wasn't the Cardinals. The surprise was not the Cardinals. The Cardinals are good. I mean, you have DeAndre Hopkins, you have Kirk, you have Edmonds, you have Kyler Murray. Like, this is a good team. Hey, shouts out to Chandler Jones for getting a career high in sacks with 5. I mean, again, overreaction, week 1, but right now he's definitely leading in defensive player of the year. Again, 5 sacks, career high. He looked good. This was bigger, and this told me a lot. I'm not gonna say it told me a lot more, but this was more of an indictment to the Tennessee Titans, man. The hype around Tennessee all off season, you lose to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs a year before, but you get Julio Jones, right? A.J. Brown still a really good wide receiver, top wide receiver, a really good wide receiver. You still have Derrick Henry, who is last year at least was the best running back in the league, hands down. Ryan Tannehill, even though a lot of people want to bag on Ryan Tannehill, and when we talk about some of the best quarterbacks in the league, Ryan Tannehill's name never comes up. But statistically, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, statistically. Mike Vrabel, very good coach. Very good coach. It's not the thing that it's not the fact that the Titans lost. It's the fact of how they lost. They got dominated on every front. Julio Jones was a non-factor. Derrick Henry was a non-factor. A.J. Brown was a non-factor. Ryan Tannehill looked like the Ryan Tannehill that was playing for the Dolphins. It just looked bad, man. Now, the Tennessee Titans is a lot of people's sleeper pick to at least make it to the Super Bowl, at least make it to the AFC Championship. And you're doing stuff like that. Like, that was bad. That was bad. And I don't know if it was just the Tennessee Titans were just god-awful or a lot of people, including myself, sleeping on how good the Cardinals are. I'm not saying that I'm not sleeping on. I mean, I said they have, what did I say? I said they have the best, the NFC West is the best division in football, and they went undefeated yesterday. So did the AFC West. So, but again, maybe we're just, I don't know. I think that was the win, or I think that game was more of an indictment on just how bad the Tennessee Titans looked compared to how good that the Cardinals looked. Again, Kyler Murray looked great. DeAndre Hopkins looked great, had 2 touchdowns. Everyone looked great for the Cardinals. So, shouts out to the Cardinals. The Steelers beat the Bills 23-16. Okay, so a lot of people were coming at me saying, but Jay, you have the Steelers as the 3rd best team in the NFC North, right? And they beat the Bills. You have the Bills winning, I had the Bills make good enough to make it to the AFC Championship. Here's the thing. My questions and my concerns about the Steelers isn't in September. We know how good we know the Steelers have probably the best defense in the league. We know you have Chase Claypool, who didn't really do much on Sunday. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who didn't really do much on Sunday. You had Najee Harris, who didn't do much on Sunday. We know how good the Steelers are in September. I mean, hell, last year the Steelers went 11-0 before their first loss. Shouts out, which was to Washington. But we know how good the Steelers are in September. My concerns with the Steelers and my questions with the Steelers is, what happens when you get closer to the playoffs? What happens when you get to the second half of the season? What happens when you get week 12, week 13, hell, week 10, and Big Ben's shoulder starts acting like Big Ben's shoulder? Or you look up and this, the offensive line, which wasn't good, but that's one big reason why Najee Harris didn't really do much. Their offensive line was not good on Sunday. Their defense just made the Bills look human. But how does this team going to look week 12, week 13? Again, you don't win Super Bowls in September. And my question, I never said that the Steelers were a bad team. I never said that. What my question are with the Steelers, my concerns and my, we're really going to see who the Steelers are come week 9 on. Because the Steelers always look good in the beginning. If the Steelers, if the Super Bowl was in September, the Steelers would be 10. The Steelers would have won the Super Bowl last year. Hell, a lot of people even last year were saying, "Yo, may want to hold off with the Steelers." I understand that they're undefeated, and it's hard. It's hard saying that when a team that you're talking about is undefeated. And again, it's week 1. Wait till I want to see what the Steelers look like. And now, if I'm wrong, if we get to week 9, week 10, week 15, week 13, and the Steelers still look like gangbusters or look as good defensively, because don't get it confused, the Steelers did not look good on Sunday. The defense looked incredible. T.J. Watt looked incredible. Joe Hayden looked incredible. Micah Parsons looked incredible. The Steelers did not look good as an entire unit on Sunday. Big Ben looked old. Najee Harris didn't do much because the offensive line was just as bad as last year. Claypool was a no-show. Juju Smith really was a no-show. The defense was just so good that the offense didn't need to do much. And that's kind of what we saw a lot last year. So honestly, I'd be more concerned with the Steelers after this win because of how they won. They looked exactly how they looked last year. And we know how last year ended. And the fact that this is a longer season now because there's an extra game, it's, I don't know. But they won week 1. I hold with the Steelers, hold your brakes to maybe week 9 on and see how they look. So, and for the Bills, I don't know. I don't know. The Bills looked bad. The Bills looked bad. Josh Allen looked bad. I don't understand. You know what it is? I don't get why you're going into a game where Devin Singletary surprisingly was okay. But you're pretty much, when you start the game, you pretty much play your hand. You pretty much know exactly what you're going to do. So when you start the game with 4 passes, I understand that Devin Singletary isn't like a top running back. And I understand that last year Josh Allen was your best rusher. And he's a quarterback, which is not good unless you're Lamar Jackson or something. But when you start the game against the Steelers and you go 4 passes, it just, I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense, but it is what it is. The Eagles beat the Falcons 32-16. I know it's overreaction. I mean, again, week 1 is overreaction. So I will admit, week 1 kind of Jalen Hurts shut me up. I said that the Eagles were god awful. I said Jalen Hurts wasn't that good. I was wrong. I think that, at least from what I saw week 1, I think that the Eagles could finish over the Giants. I don't know. I think the Giants have a better core. I know it was only week 1, but I apologize, Jalen Hurts. I should not have doubted a fellow Jalen. But, a shout out to Devontae Smith. Had a touchdown. He looked really good. You know, the Eagles just look good. The Eagles look good as a whole. But, my God. I'm starting to get real frustrated. I'm not really starting. My frustration that I experienced last year, I know it's early, but it's starting to build for the Falcons. The Falcons, man. The Falcons, I don't understand how Matt Ryan isn't as bad as he looks. You know what I'm saying? The Falcons, I mean, you have Calvin Ridley, who's a really good receiver. You have Kyle Pitts, who probably one of the best all-around players in the draft. This team is god-awful. I don't know if it's because their defense sucks. In fact, their defense is horrible. Like, oh, my gosh. I'm getting frustrated. My frustration is starting to rise early because this team should be better than it is. It's just not. And I don't. The Falcons suck. The Falcons, and this was when I did the whole divisional breakdown. This is why I said you never know with the Falcons, because the Falcons have talent on their roster. It's just they're garbage. They're garbage. They have Mike Davis, who was good. He was the former running back for the for the Panthers, but the Falcons suck, bro. Ugh. One of the best games on Sunday was the Kansas City Chiefs against the Browns. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Browns 33-29. To me, you saw the difference between a team that knows they're good and a team that has been through, like a team that's been good for a while. Right now, you saw the difference between a great team and a good team. I think it's just week one. I still have the Browns winning the division. But you saw the difference between a great team and a good team. A great team isn't just great because you have great players, right? You know how to win in certain situations. I mean, the Chiefs were down, I think 14, or they were down 9. They were down 14 altogether, I think. They were down 9 in the fourth quarter and came back and won. You saw most of the biggest mistakes in the game happen on the Cleveland Browns side. You saw the pick by Baker Mayfield. You saw the punt blunder from the Browns. All the biggest mistakes happen from the Browns. Now again, I'm not saying that the Browns are they're god awful. I'm not saying that the Browns are not going to win the NFC or the NFC North. What I'm saying is, at least right now, week one, these are two different classes. The Chiefs, efficient. You didn't really feel panic. Hell, even down 14, you didn't really think that the Chiefs were out of it. In fact, you knew the Chiefs weren't out of it. You didn't see panic from Patrick Mahomes. You didn't see panic from Tyreek Hill. You didn't see panic from Travis Kelce. You didn't see panic from anyone. The Browns, man, I understand that what's his name? I understand that Odell Beckham Jr. didn't play, but you just the biggest mistakes happen against the Browns. And again, it's week one. I think that the Browns is still a good team. They showed flashes of greatness that game. I mean, Baker Mayfield had some really high highs. Now I get he was trying to throw the ball out the last play or the last drive or whatever for him, but you cannot throw that interception. But I'm not gonna say that the team is garbage. I'm not gonna say the team is not gonna go places. I'm not saying that this is over for the Browns. I'm not saying that it is leaps and bounds worse than anyone. I'm just saying that you saw a great team right now compared to a good team, and that's the outcome that you get. So, the Saints beat the Packers 38-3. First and foremost, shouts out to Jameis Winston, man. I never said Jameis Winston was bad. I just said they had some question marks because, I mean, Jameis Winston, we remember last time we saw him as a starting quarterback, he was throwing 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So, but man, shouts out to Jameis. He had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he just like the Saints just mollywopped the Packers. Now, it's just one game. We know the Packers have the better quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. We know that, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. We know the defense that they have, even though Kevin King, every time I see Kevin King now, he's getting destroyed. He got destroyed against Scotty Miller. He was getting destroyed against the Saints. He's just, I don't know what it is, man. He needs to turn his Madden sliders up, but. Now, a lot of people are asking, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the Packers were the noisiest team this offseason. With Aaron Rodgers, he wants out. What's going to happen with that? Jordan Love. Like, they were the noisiest team. So, the fact that they came out and got destroyed by the Saints. Now, I understand also that they played in Jacksonville. That humidity is different. It was a lot. But I don't think that it's nothing. I also don't think that it's everything. I just think it's something. I think the fact that they were just distracted. They were distracted all season. It's kind of hard to switch your brain back to, all right, let's go win this game, especially when a team in the Saints have a lot to prove. Now, I don't think that this is going to be indicative on the whole season. I think that it was just one game. I think that they're going to be better as far as the Green Bay Packers. But I do not think it's a coincidence that, you hear Matt LaFleur talking about they need to get humbled. You hear Aaron Rodgers saying it's one game. I get it. But, again, the loudest team this offseason also lost the worst. Aaron Rodgers had his worst QBR. Aaron Rodgers had his worst game of his career. And I don't think that's a coincidence coming off of the offseason that they had. So there's that. The Broncos beat the Giants 27-13. Hope Jerry Jeudy gets back or gets healthy. Teddy Bridgewater looked really good. That defense looked incredible. Von Miller, Patrick Surtain, like that defense looked great. Like that defense might be one of the best defenses in the league. That's how good it looked week 1. And then again, oh man, it's hard for me to I can't keep overlooking how bad the Giants offensive line looks. Their offensive line looked god-awful in the preseason, and they look god-awful week 1. Now, also, I can't get over the fact that Daniel Jones has a turnover problem, whether it's interceptions, whether it's fumbles. He has a turnover problem. He fumbled again on Sunday. It's not looking good, man. It's not looking good, but when you have that with a horrible offensive line that they have, that's not a good recipe, especially when your best player in Saquon Barkley is coming back from a season-ending injury last year. So he needs to get his legs under him. It's kind of hard doing that with an offensive line that bad. But shouts out to the Broncos for doing that. The Dolphins beat the Patriots 17-16. Mac Jones looked good. In fact, Mac Jones kind of outplayed Tua a little bit. It was just, I think that there was some throws that Mac Jones should have completed. That I think because he's a rookie, he may have overthrew it, or he just didn't see it. One I don't remember who said it, but one defender said something that always stuck out to me. It's easy to deceive. Or it's easy to fool rookies because you're not used to NFL. And there was multiple times where Mac Jones, was fooled on some coverages. So, shouts out to the Dolphins. The Dolphins look good as a whole. I think Tua has those games where he looks incredible, and he has those games where he looks average as hell. And he looked average as hell on this game. He just played. Well, he had better moments than Mac Jones, but I think Mac Jones as a whole played better. And I'm hearing it, and I agree. I think that if Cam Newton was the starting quarterback, they would have won the game. But we're not talking about week 1. We're talking about in the long run. And while, yes, I would love to see Cam Newton still, a quarterback in the league, I don't think that the Patriots are thinking about, well, we should bring Cam back because we lost week 1 in a game that I think if he was a starting quarterback, they would have won. So that's just how it is. And the Rams beat the Bears 34-14. Let me speak on the Bears first. I understand what the fans are saying. I understand. I hear it clearly. They should start Justin Fields. Justin Fields looked good in the very limited time that he was on the field. Andy Dalton, he just didn't look good. He really didn't look good. He had some flashes, but he just didn't look good. And I get both sides. I think I'm starting to lean on the side of maybe you should start Justin Fields. I was on the side with Andy Dalton because actually, you know what? No. I think in the preseason, Justin Fields only completed like 52% of his passes, and that's the preseason against people that probably aren't even on the team anymore. I'm not saying Justin Fields is bad. I'm just saying give him a little bit more time to learn from Andy Dalton and to get an understanding of just how the NFL is as far as, great defenses playing against you, scheming against you. You're not playing against, backups or people that's not even on the roster anymore. So I understand that. But I understand what the fans are, because, boy, I don't know, it was Matt Nagy's play calling. I don't know. That the Bears should not be as bad as they looked. With Khalil Mack, with Hicks, the David Montgomery had a pretty good game, but Allen Robinson, like, this team should not be as bad as it looked, and it looked bad. But I think you can also contribute that to the Rams. And this is, again, I understand it's week 1, but this is what I was talking about. We had to see what Matthew Stafford looked like on a competent team. There was a lot of times, you had Megatron, you had Marvin Jones, you had some players, but you never really had a good team. And when Matthew Stafford was with the Detroit Lions. And now you have a good team, and he looked incredible. Matthew Stafford looked like the best he's ever looked. Matthew Stafford, now I know statistically it wasn't his best game ever, but it looked like this was one of his best games ever. Now, again, I understand statistically it wasn't, but he looked good. He had so much command of the team. Cooper Kupp got involved. It looked good. It looked good. Jalen Ramsey was flying all over the place. Aaron Donald really didn't do much, but you didn't. This is what the Rams wanted. The Rams, there was a lot of times where the Rams lost because of the quarterback play. They just didn't trust Jared Goff. And shouts out to Matthew Stafford and the Rams. This is why I said that they could be the best team in the league. They could be. It just depends on. Again, I understand it's week 1, but the Rams look good. The Rams look really good, and yeah, man. I think a lot of it is because the team is rallying behind Matt Stafford. They trust Matthew Stafford, and they're following Matthew Stafford, and he's leading them. Again, I understand it's week 1, but you cannot look. Was it Sunday Night Football? You cannot look at what we saw from the Rams, what we saw from the Bears. Two teams that are really good, and they look completely opposite. Completely opposite. Like, they look like they were going in two completely different directions. And shouts out to Matthew Stafford, man. I just realized I didn't talk about the 49ers and the Lions. 49ers beat the Lions 41-33. There should be no reason. The 49ers were destroying the Lions. I know they took their foot off the gas, but there should be no reason why that game was that close at all. DeAndre Smith or Swift, he had a really good game. Jared Goff, he was okay at the end, but there was no reason The game should have been that close. But shouts out to the 49ers. Oh, and lastly, the game on Monday Night Football, which was probably the craziest ending I've seen in a while. The Ravens lost to the Raiders 33-7 or 27. This game went to overtime. You have to understand the elements at B, right? This was the first game in the Death Star for the Raiders. It's Vegas, so that is rocking. First time, like I said, having a full crowd, and it was packed. From what I saw on TV, it was packed. Here's the thing. You know what it is? I think we're overcritical with Derek Carr. I think that Derek Carr has some really high moments, man. Derek Carr is a good quarterback. I just think the team around him isn't that good. Yeah, you have Darren Waller, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league, and they know it. I mean, he had 19 targets. He alone had 19 targets, I think, and a lot of those drops were on him. Like, he was trying to do a one-handed catch for some reason. Yeah. But Derek Carr looks incredible. Derek Carr is what I kind of put Derek Carr in the class with Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford, in the kind of that class. As far as, you're not the best, you're definitely not top 10. But you put Derek Carr in the right situation. Derek Carr is a really good quarterback. It's just offensive line. I mean, they thought they won the game. He threw it to, Edmonds or something like that. He thought they won the game. Get the ball to the 1 yard line. Try to run it in. Meets the wall. Then you run a play. Alex Leatherwood, who was struggling all night, and I understand he's a rookie, but he was struggling all night. He has an offsides, which push you back from the 1 to the 6. So now you got to throw the ball. You throw the ball to Willie Snead, hits his hands, ball goes high as hell. The Ravens get it. Ravens don't capitalize. Derek Carr just made the right plays when he had to. A lot of those drops, a lot of the incompletions wasn't really on him. It was like Darren Waller trying to do a one-handed catch for some reason. Willie Snead hitting off his hands. There was a lot of times it hit off the hands of the receiver, So I think that, not to mention, I think that was a very important win for the Raiders. Again, it was the first time they're playing in Las Vegas in the Death Star which was full of fans. It was big. Darren Waller was even though I talk about his drops, Darren Waller was big that game. It was Josh Jacobs was injured, but he had two touchdowns. Kenyon Drake, he looked good. It was just the offensive line wasn't that good, and the defense held his own. Defense held his own, and I'm not gonna I can't really talk bad about the defense because they won, but the defense held his own. And the defense, in fact, I'll say this: the defense was a lot better than I expected because the Raiders' defense is always usually bad, has been bad for the longest, and you don't really expect much from the Raiders' defense at that point. So the fact that they were good, man. The game winning KJ Wright was really good. He had a big stop on Latavius Murray. It was good, man. It was a good all around win, man. I felt bad for Gerald McCoy. He got hurt again, and it's looking like it's bad. So, but yeah, man, Max Crosby, bro. That's what I was. Max Crosby had a day. Max Crosby was killing Alejandro Villanueva. He was killing that man. Max Crosby looked like the greatest defensive end of all time on Monday. It was Shouts out to that man. Now I understand that the broadcast team kept talking about his sobriety, kept talking about Darren Waller's sobriety. Shouts out to them. I'm just talking about on the field. This man was he was nothing but disruptive. Oh man, he was killing the offensive line for the Ravens, man. And let's go to the Ravens. First of all, shouts out to the Raiders. Let's go over to the Ravens. So a lot is to be said, or a lot's going to be said about Lamar Jackson's 2 fumbles. Of course, the biggest fumble was at the end of the game in overtime. Blindside coming. I think it was Caleb Carl Nassib. He came and the running back just lazily just hit the dude, and he just came and blasted Lamar Jackson. But you still got to hold him to the ball. And, of course, he had 2 fumbles. And a lot can be, when you lose like that, a lot's going to be, you're going to nitpick the game a lot more. There was a lot of times where Lamar Jackson missed players that were 5, like in short yard coverage or like in short yard throws. He wasn't the greatest. He was not the greatest at all. Now, he had some really good pass. Like, he had that bomb to Sammy Watkins. He had the scramble pass for a touchdown to Hollywood Brown. Like, he had some really good moments. And, of course, he threw an incredible pass to Mark Andrews, who dropped the ball. But, again, a lot of people are going to talk about the 2 lost fumbles and the fact they didn't win. And, of course, his incompletions, the short yard coverage. But the offensive line was not given. He was running for his life all game. Now, I understand it's Lamar Jackson, and we talked about the Ravens were just decimated. From injury. And they Marlon Humphreys was out, maybe a play or two. I know someone else got injured that game or on Monday, but speaking of injuries, right? So you're out. You're pretty much one of your best defenders in Marcus Peters. What's his name? Jimmy Smith is also not playing. For the life of me, you're already down a couple of your top players on the defense side of the ball. Why in the world would you go cover 0 and man pretty much the whole game? I understand that's your philosophy. I understand that that's what you're used to doing. But when you're injured, the team is injured. The defense is injured, so why don't you help the defense? They were getting killed. Waller was killing them all night. Why would you not go to some type of zone coverage? I know I'm not the greatest football mind, but I'm looking at that these players are getting killed. Why are they in man? Hell, even the announcers I don't understand why they're still running man. Didn't make sense to me, man. I think there's just one game, of course. I know it's just one game, but I think the Ravens are going to be a little better. I think Lamar Jackson's going to play better. I think he still needs to improve on his short game passes, which we saw wasn't too good week 1. But I think, again, it's just week 1, and that's a tough environment, traveling from Baltimore all the way to Las Vegas. In that environment, it was tough. I'm not giving an excuse or anything, but yeah, man, it was a good game. If the Raiders would have lost that game, that would have been a Raiders loss. The Raiders always lose some weird way, and that would have been it. I mean, you celebrating like you won. Everyone's on the field dapping up, even though the refs are saying loud and clear the game's not over. And then the offensive or the offsides or false start, and then Willie Snead off. It was crazy. But shouts out to Derek Carr. Shouts out to the Raiders for winning. Yeah, man. That's this week. that was week 1 in the books. The first game is Thursday or tomorrow, or for week 2. It's the Washington football team and the Giants. I think. I mean, you got Tyler Heineke as your starting quarterback. However, I cannot get the image of how bad that the Giants' offensive line is. And I think that the Washington football is going to have a field day, especially how they lost against the Chargers. So I have Washington winning that game, but that's that, man. That is that. Moving forward. So week 2 of college football happened, and a lot of that was what was supposed to happen has happened. I mean, blowout city. Now the stat came out saying the most top 10 teams lost ever in week 1. Well, of course, because they're all playing against each other. I mean, Clemson lost to Georgia. Like when you're gonna play when multiple top 10 teams play against each other, they're gonna lose. That's how it is. But week 2 was more the same. I mean, or not more the same. Week 2 was more of what we're used to. Alabama destroyed Mercer 48-14. Georgia beat UAB 56-7. Oklahoma beat Western Carolina 76-0. Even though the game was a lot closer than I expected, Texas A&M beat Colorado 10-7. I thought it was going to be a little higher scoring. Clemson destroyed South Carolina State 49-3. I mean, I think probably one of the better games was Iowa and Iowa State. We thought that was going to be a contest game, like a big game, which it was. Iowa won 27-17. We're starting to see this a lot with Iowa. Iowa was 10th, Iowa State was 9, but we see this every year with Iowa. Iowa comes into the season, they beat some really good teams. They have a really good defense, really good offense. But it's just like once they start playing like I understand Iowa State is ranked 9th, but once they start playing a big caliber team, we'll have to see. But yeah, I think the two biggest games. Let's start with the biggest one, in my opinion. Oregon beating Ohio State. Now, I'm an Oregon fan. We all know this. But I think the biggest reason, one, Kayvon Thibodeau, which is Oregon's best player, he was out. And I know Ohio State, I think, lost their best corner in the game or best safety or something like that. But here's the biggest reason why I think that Oregon won. First of all, shouts out to Anthony Brown, black quarterback for Oregon. Shouts out to you. C.J. Stroud was really good. I mean, he threw for 484 yards. Shouts out to C.J. Fordell for Oregon, running 26 carries for 161 yards. Like, come on now. 2 touchdowns, by the way. But here's why I think that Oregon won. When you look at all the teams in the Big Ten, which is where Ohio State resides at this moment, it's hard. You know what it is? It's hard to practice speed if you don't have it. I'm not saying that Ohio State's not fast. I'm not saying that Michigan's not fast, who also won on Saturday. It's hard to duplicate speed. Because some people have it and some people don't. There is not a team in the Big Ten that can match the speed of Oregon. Now, I'm not saying that as a whole, Oregon is a better team than Ohio State. I'm an Oregon fan, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that as a whole, the Big Ten is not better than the Pac-12. I'm not saying that. But Oregon is right now I think they're 4th, but they were 12th. It's hard to match speed. Ohio State is not going to play a team as fast as Oregon for the rest of the year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated for this year. I'm just saying they're not going to play a team as fast as Oregon plays the rest of the year. Not to mention, all you heard prior to the game was Ohio, Oregon was a double-digit underdog. Ohio State's about to destroy Oregon. Like C.J. Stroud is a Heisman candidate. Like that's all you heard. And again, it's hard to. They were just. I mean, you saw some of the runs that Oregon was destroying these people. Now I understand they won by a touchdown, but the game was a lot. It wasn't as close as the score. I'll just say that. I understand it was 35-28. It wasn't as close as the score. Ohio State is never going to play a team as fast as the Oregon Ducks, because there's no team in the Big Ten that can match that. The Big Ten pretty much physicality. You know what I mean? There's no team as physically dominant in the Pac-12 than it is in the Big Ten. But there is no team in the Big Ten as fast as Oregon, and it was quickly apparent that they weren't used to that. Ohio State was not used to that type of speed, and you can't duplicate that if you don't have it on the team. So, shouts out to Oregon. And also, Arkansas beating Texas 40-21 is the funniest thing to me. That shows, again, the Pac-12 is not the SEC. Some of the best teams in the Pac-12 is not better. Now, I'm not saying that Oklahoma is not good. I mean, they're ranked third. I think they're good. But Texas, you cannot match the physicality in the Big 12 than you do in the SEC, man. And to think about it, that's Arkansas. Imagine, down the road when Texas is officially in the SEC, you got to play against Alabama, you got to play against Auburn, you got to play against Georgia, who just beat someone 56-0 or 56-7. Like, come on now. It just, damn, yeah, they got destroyed. they got destroyed. Yeah, man. Yeah. Damn, Texas. Then the Big 12 is not the SEC. I'll tell you that. And so did Arkansas. I'll tell you that too. So I also think the biggest, shouts out to Jackson State. Shouts out to Jackson State for beating Florida State. I don't know. Just look how far Georgia State has fallen, bro. Like, I'm Georgia State. Look how far Florida State has fallen. Like, Georgia State just a few years ago had Jameis Winston, a skinny Calvin Benjamin, and they were winning national championships. Like, and now Florida State is losing to Jackson State. Jackson State. And that's no offense to Jackson State, but that's not Florida State. Florida State should mop the floor with them. The Florida State should beat them like Georgia beating some of these teams, or like Alabama beat Mercer, or like Clemson beat South Carolina State. You shouldn't lose to Jackson State, but you did. So, oh man, Florida. I'm surprised. We're going to talk about USC in a second. I'm surprised that Florida State's coach ain't on the pine after that. So, hey. But I think probably the biggest news coming out of college this weekend, outside of Oregon beating Ohio State, was USC. USC lost to, USC lost to Stanford. Now, this is big because Stanford has plummeted. Stanford is not good. Stanford is horrible. Like, they're pretty bad now, and I know that they have a history of being good, or a recent history of being good, but Stanford is god awful. USC, who was ranked 14th, lost to Stanford 42-28, and because of that, USC fires head coach Clay Helton. Now, that's not just because of the game on Saturday. When we think about some of the greatest college teams, a lot of them came from USC. USC has a history of a really good program. I mean, you had Reggie Bush, you had Matt Leinart, you had Troy Polamalu. Like, the SEC has a history of greatness. And when you look at college football now, nobody even cares about USC. I mean, they're losing recruits to UCLA, which is their biggest fear, and you're losing they're not really getting much recruits because of the success or the lack of success that they've had. And I think it's about time. I mean, you're not really hearing people say, Clay Helton shouldn't have got fired." I mean, he's been struggling for the past 2 years now. It's been time, and I think, or at least clearly know that losing to Stanford was a nail in the coffin, especially when you're ranked 14th and Stanford is god awful. So at least this year. So, I think the sentiment is, it's long overdue, and I don't wish nobody get fired, but USC has not been good for a while, and I don't know if it's time for change. So he's out, and we'll see where they go from here. So moving forward, shouts out to all the NBA Hall of Fame inductees. The Hall of Fame was this weekend, and there was some really good. There was some really good. If you're in the Hall of Fame, you're good. You're a good player. So when I say it was some really good names, of course there is. They're in the Hall of Fame. But shouts out to all the inductees, man. You have Rich Adelman, you have Chris Bosh, Paul Pierce, Bill Russell, who was already in the Hall of Fame as a player. Now he's in the Hall of Fame as a coach. I think he's like one of two players that's actually like that. Ben Wallace, Chris Webber, Jay Wright, Yolanda Griffith, Lauren Jackson, who was on the W25 list. You have Val Ackerman, you have Cotton Fitzsimmons, you have Harold Garfinkel. Ooh, look at that name. You have Clarence Jenkins, Tony Kukoc, who was an incredible overseas player and, of course, helped the Bulls to 3 championships. You have Pearl and Bob Danridge. I think the biggest question mark was, or the biggest, I guess, eye-scratcher? The biggest head-scratcher is Ben Wallace and Paul Pierce and Chris Webber, or did Chris Bosh, Paul Pierce, Ben Wallace, and Chris Webber do enough to make the NFL or the Hall of Fame? I would say Chris Webber is one of the best players that Toronto's ever had, and of course, when he brought his talents to the Heat, even though of course you have LeBron James, you have Chris or Dwayne Wade. They and I know it's hard to say, but they would not have won championships. They wouldn't have won any of the two if it wasn't for Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh has some big moments, big shots. Boom. Paul Pierce. I'm not a fan of Paul Pierce as like a person. Like I don't. Paul Pierce isn't the most glamorous player, but I will say this: Paul Pierce is one of the best and most clutch players we've seen, especially for the Celtics. Paul Pierce has been that good. Again, it's fun to crack jokes on Paul Pierce, especially when they had like the Hall of Fame thing. Like, hey, you ain't Kobe. You remember Draymond Green, but Paul Pierce was good. One of the most clutch players we've had. Ben Wallace, one of the best defenders the league has ever seen ever. He was the biggest reason why the Detroit Pistons were as good as they were for as long as they were. A lot of people forget, even though they won one championship, or two, they won one championship and they went back to back as far as they won one and lost the other one. Like, they were dominant. Like, they continuously went to Eastern Conference Finals. And Ben Wallace is one of the greatest defenders we've ever seen. And Chris Webber, I mean, we cannot forget what we saw with the Sacramento Kings. Even though you don't win a championship, or even though you don't win that much, Chris Webber was incredible. Was greatness. Chris Webber, he was one of the first. He wasn't as good defensively, but he was better offense. He was like a Draymond Green type situation. He wasn't as good defensively, but he was better than Draymond offensively. Like, it was Chris Webber was that dude. So shouts out to all the players. I mean, there's no question. Yolanda Griffith, she's definitely deserving. Lauren Jackson, I mean, you made the top 25 list in WNBA. Of course, you're gonna make shouts out to her. And I think she won two MVPs. I know Yolanda Griffith won an MVP as well for the Monarchs, and Lauren playing for the Seattle. So shouts out to them. Shouts out to everyone. Tony Kukoc. Shouts out to everyone. Jay Wright, who coach from Villanova. Shouts out to everyone for making the Basketball Hall of Fame. Definitely well deserving. So, and there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I hope that it wasn't, I hope that me being sick wasn't too. It didn't disturb the audio experience as much as I hope it didn't. So I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, long sleeve, sweater, joggers, the link is in the description below. Hey, it's about to start getting fall. It's about to start getting cold. Get your hoodies. I got multiple designs, multiple colors, whatever you want. I got you. Click on the item, get the color. Do you go get your merch today? Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and until next time, much love.